Hello, and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today, I have Kelly Mack here, and this is part 2 of this time last year was when we did our first episode, and it was around a similar topic, except now we're going to addressing those of you who are over 40, because it's many of you ladies, sadly, who are being marketed to more than ever before by bloody listing out everything that you're experiencing so that you think that they have the solution, so that you think that everything that you're experiencing is something that needs a particular menopausal protocol. And while it's fresh in my head, there is something that I heard today that I think is a great way to set the tone for this. And I'm going to let you take it and see how it kind of relates. We're going to start off with nutrition, but then we're going to talk about training. The thing that I heard today, for example, you're playing a guitar or you're playing a piano or you're playing an instrument. You look up different scoreboards on Google. You learn to play those particular chords for that scoreboard as you're reading them. But that isn't actually teaching you how to play guitar or how to play piano. Outside of those rote learned songs, you can't make up your own melodies. You can't play in between it. You know how people make the cool little chords that go yeah, that's beautiful guitar voice. But that's the thing. It's teaching you how to follow a structure, but outside of that structure, you have nothing. And that is kind of the same with all of this stuff. Where do you see something similar like that happen that holds a lot of women back?
I think a lot of people following like the meal plan idea. Nothing wrong with a meal plan if you're advanced, but when you just kind of give people something to follow, like a meal plan, and you're not teaching them, about what's actually in the meal and what happens if you can't have that exact meal, you don't know how to build a plate. So it's like kind of like teaching the basic foundational stuff first is key, just like with any of this stuff. Like, okay, let's learn what protein is. Let's learn what fiber is. Let's learn what carbs and fats are before we just like, okay, you have to eat this. You have to eat this. So that's like, you know what I mean? It's like you need to be able to have the foundation before you kind of get into that area. Like, I guess, does that make sense? Like the whole meal plan thing. Yeah. So that's sort of like, is like people want to skip the really like the basic stuff and just learning the real basic things that are going to set you up for the long haul. Like they want to skip over all that stuff because they think it's not important. It's like, what's the magic food? Isn't it the yada, yada, yada that so-and-so promotes, and it's like, no, it's actually just protein and, carbs and fats and fiber. Like it's like learning that kind of thing before you just follow some structured meal plan. Because when you can't have that meal plan, you don't know what to do. So I guess something along those lines would kind of be what I would say.
I'm going to throw my one in it now. And my one, I would relate it to deficits. A lot of women are great at nailing deficits because there's this end goal. There's the dopamine hit. We are so used to using scales, tape measurements, check-in photos, and seeing changes, measuring changes based off of that.
Yeah.
But none of that matters when it comes to building muscle and seeing shape. And by that, I mean, you are not going to see changes in your body every single week, number one. Number two, if you focus more on that stuff, that doesn't do the building. You can do all the centimeter, inches checks. You can do all the kilos, pounds checks, but that doesn't lead to physique. What leads to physique are your reps increasing over time? Are your kilos on the bar / dumbbells / machine increasing over time?
Yeah.
Is your intensity actually there? Because just because you're like, if you're lifting heavier every single week or even every 2 weeks, there is something wrong going there. You should not be able to increase your weight every single week if you are training with the appropriate intensity from the get-go. Because if on a proper training program that doesn't change every 4 weeks, you're fighting for increases. Like it's hard to increase the weight every single week.
Sure.
You should be celebrating the fact that you kept it the same. And
yes, if you are training hard enough, you should be happy you kept it the same. If not, you just cleaned up your technique. You got maybe a little more efficient with your technique, and that kind of thing. But yeah, you won't be, once you're advanced, you won't be moving up weight a ton. So
yeah, and I would say once you're past the first, I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong. Do you see this as well, where people will do like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then be like, this isn't working anymore. I'm not making progress.
Yeah.
So then they change it up, and then now they're making progress again. But are you actually making progress? And this was going to be one of my first questions to you, because I know I wanted to go from people only know how to apply things to a deficit and then use that analogy into training. People don't understand what progressive overload is or progression is, and most of the time they don't even care. And that is the biggest struggle point, because if you don't care about that, then you honestly don't care about physique change. Yeah. Because that is what changes your physique. You can manipulate your macros all you want. You can diet all you want. You can even eat all of the protein in the world. None of that builds a physique. Training is the only thing that builds a physique. But progressive overload is massively understood. So let's talk about that, because it's not just changing your program every 4, 6, not even every 12 weeks, just changing your program. There needs to be system and structure to it based off where you are at. Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, periodization is everything, right? So you could do a certain program for 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks, and then eventually you do have to change it, but you can even keep the same exercises and change the rest intervals. You can change the rep ranges and change the stimulus completely. You could have the same program all year long and just change how much you're resting and how many reps you're doing, and it'll change the entire thing, which is also another way I program, is I periodize everything, like 6, 8 weeks of heavy, then a little deload, which would be more like a systemic training block, which is a little more fast metabolic moving, but it could be the same exercises, just 30-second rests. You could do an incomplete rest method where you're resting 10 to 15 seconds for a week long, and just kind of deloading that in. Then you can go into a heavy neurological block where you're doing heaviest stuff like you are right now, low reps for 6, 8 weeks, and then another deload of going systemic, lower rest, and just kind of keep manipulating the rest intervals with the reps. And you can have a whole year, and you could get so far, because each stimulus will kind of like build off the last, which will set you up better for the next. You know what I mean? So you got to train all the different energy systems, really, and then it'll just make you, if you think about doing that for an entire year, like everything would be better and more efficient by the time you circled back around to the the first training block of the year. Like, you'd be a different person if you followed that. Most people don't, they kind of,
they get bored.
Yeah, they get bored. Exactly. So they want the shiny new object, because it's boring, and it really, it should be boring, actually.
I would say that if you're not getting stronger over time, you're not progressing, because strong is lean. Strong is what builds muscle. And if you're not getting stronger, you're not building muscle either. And if you're not building muscle, you're not going to get leaner and see the body composition changes. And exactly what you said with being able to train these different qualities, being able to have, like, my favorite way of ensuring that people have the best of both worlds is to have something that excites them in getting stronger. So we have kind of like power building, where there's just elements, and then there's your hypertrophy elements there as well. Although I would say anything over 15 reps for most people is just a waste of your time, because the first 10 reps, the first 8 reps, you're not doing anything except adding to fatigue. People don't actually use their rep ranges properly. No. It's like, oh, this burns, this hurts, let's stop at rep 15. Yeah. Whereas if you learn whole spectrum of, let's start out with getting you used to exactly like you said, 12 to 15 reps, or even 12 to 20 reps, just getting you used to learning how to repeat, because repetition makes movements, like, you get better at the movements. And then getting you better getting you better at training neurologically in the 6 to 10 rep range. And neurologically, what we mean is you can easily lift 6 to 8 reps and it feels hard, but you're not actually effectively doing that at the cellular level, because you're not able to recruit the muscle fibers you need to make 6 to 8 reps effective. So you have to learn that over time. I think this is the most important part of effective reps. I reckon that 12 to 15 reps makes women more bulky and more soft than anything, because if you're not using them properly, you're just burning yourself out and you're not building muscle. And that's what makes you soft and bulky, because you're not building muscle.
Yeah,
building muscle makes you lean.
Yeah.
So it's like me saying that, it's just like, what is she talking about? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Learn how to train in the 6 to 10 rep range and use that effectively. As soon as you get to rep 2, 3, you're already in the effective rep range.
Yeah.
You get less fatigue, more stimulus out of that.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people see 15 reps, they automatically think, I'm going to choose the 10s instead of the 15s. You know, like just for example, like the 10-pound weights are instead of the 15-pounders, because I got to do 15 reps, you know, and it's like you automatically, I think they automatically would choose something lighter than they should because the rep range is so high. Yes, is it a good learning tool for absolute beginners? Yeah, sure, because they're going to learn the movement. But as you get more advanced, yes, I agree with you that like anywhere from 6 to 10 reps is a great, it's just all around. It's the mix of hypertrophy and strength, right? Obviously a little more towards the 6 would be a little more neurological, more towards the 10 is getting more into hypertrophy, but that's just a beautiful range to like kind of tick all the boxes, right? You're going to get stronger, you're going to get more jacked, you're going to build more muscle, which is going to give you the pop you want, which is going to give you the physique you want, rather than jerking around with 15 reps and, you know, using too light of weights and just going till you burn, right? Because the burn isn't really anything. It's, you know, just like a little bit of metabolites, and it's, you know, it's not building. You know, when people are like at the gym, I'll see trainers like working with clients and like, you know, oh my God, you know, they make all these moves just burn so bad. It's such a good workout. And it's like, not really, you know, in my head, in my little brain, I'm like, just because of that sensation, you know, people think it's this awesome thing, but you know, really, yeah, you just need to be doing the boring 6 to 10 reps and resting 2 to 3 minutes. And that's where the magic's going to happen, not in the burn, which is, you know, that's what just people just think that don't know any better and going off that sensation. So
something that I've actually seen quite a lot get thrown around is I've heard that it was either 12 to 15 or 10 to 12 reps, 10 to 15 reps is what I need to get the leaner look. And if I really want to build bulk and actually get more muscle on and go into a bulk phase, then I should be doing 6 to 8 reps. And it's like, actually, I would be doing the 6 to 8 reps if I wanted to lean, because that's what builds muscle.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just goes back to like the old theory of like high reps is, you know, going to build muscle, like back in like the magazine covers, you know, and like high, you know, like women were not promoting 3 to 5 reps. You know what I mean? This was like back in like the 90s and the early 2000s of like, you know, high reps was like the small dumbbells. Yes, exactly. And that will not die, you know, especially for women 40 plus. That is what they grew up with. And it's very hard to change their minds. And they are like, what? What do you mean carbs? What do you mean do 6 to 8 reps? Like, that's boring. That's slow. Nothing. I'm not sweating. I'm not burning. Like, you know, like nothing's happening and everything's happening, you know, but you have to convince them.
That's the hardest part, I reckon, because you can't make people believe something. And it's like, well, why are we having this conversation? Obviously, there's something you're not happy with. So something needs to change. And I know that you've heard this. When people come to you and to me on less than 1,500 calories, oh, but I can't eat more than this because I'll gain weight. Or if they've seen results in the past, they relate results and looking toned to when they lost fat. Would you agree that that's the biggest trap? Because they've seen results in the past. So they're like, fat loss is what's going to get me results. And of course it is for the first time, maybe the second time, but then you never build anything in between. So from that point onwards, you're going to keep relying on things that got you quote unquote results and progress in the past. So that's what you equate to working. However, there's nothing in between.
Yeah, what got you from point A to B, you know, won't always get you from point B to point C. And that's what one thing I usually will say. It's like, that did work for you once because you were coming from a sedentary lifestyle, absolutely no strength training, and you started strength training and maybe you were doing 15 reps and eating low calories. You were just in a calorie deficit for the first time and that worked, of course, you know, but now you're here and maybe you regain some of that weight back and you want to go back to doing what you were doing back then, but that might not work now. You're a different person. You have more muscle mass on you, maybe from when you did build muscle, and you just have to like try to convince people to open their minds to like, hey, why don't we try it my way? Because something right now is not working for you. So how about we try this? And I try to explain to people, like, we're not going to be like sweating and panting. Like, we're going to focus on the movements, getting really efficient with the movement, the tempo, going nice and slow and controlled, and focus on the form. And I promise things will happen, but you have to also be patient and trust. And I mean, I have that conversation a lot. Like, try to lean into the process, like if you lean in and trust me, I promise it will work. But you have to do the work, but it will work, So
I actually think that's a big part of the issue, because people lean in, but they're leaning in with kind of like a foot out still.
Yeah.
You think that you're fully trusting the process. You create this. It's not even you create it. It's like you are bought into it. You're following the things, you're doing the things, but in your mind, you're still thinking, I still have fat to lose. I still want to lean out more. You're treating this period like, I know that I'm just doing this and I'm focusing on strength and I'm loving what I'm doing, but I still want to lose weight, but I still need to lean out, but I still don't like this on my body and this on my body. That isn't serving you, and that isn't allowing you to fully lean into the process and allow your brain to just let go of that, I guess, the stress system. Because that's a type of stress, hyperfixated on all these things that aren't serving you.
Yeah. And try to like explain, like, muscle is like metabolic gold. I mean, the more, like, I always like, the more muscle mass you have, and I'm not saying like you're going to build all this muscle, but the more you strength train and add some tissue to your body, the more calories you're going to burn. And it might not reflect that on the scale, and that's the problem people have, is the scale. I'm doing all the things and I'm lifting weights and the scale is staying the same, or if not, maybe it's ticking up a little bit. Hey, well, guess what? Muscle's not weightless. And you have to just try to, like, your clothes are going to start fitting better, and that's usually the first thing that people see, like, oh, my clothes are fitting better. And that's like the things that, like, you need to trust. But yeah, I agree that people they're open to the process because they hire a coach, but you're right. They still have one foot out the door, and those old beliefs still come rearing in all the time. So yeah, it's the convincing of women, especially, that muscle is pure gold to have. And the more we can have, the more efficient your body is going to burn calories, even at rest. I'm like, you'll be able to eat more. You'll be burning more like when you sleep, when you walk. Like, it's just, you're going to be a better operating machine, as a human being, if you have more muscle. There is not one downside. So that's kind of my spiel.
The downside is being bulky. And that's the thing. Like, if you're over 35, you will never, ever, ever, like literally ever, get bulky. And definitely not the way that most people approach things. What is the biggest approach of bulkiness lately is believing all the other stuff that's online, because the end result is less muscle, more fat, because you're overcomplicating the process. You cut out carbs. I've had this conversation 3 times actually in the last 2 days, where there's a lady that got told that her blood glucose levels are too high. So then she went keto, and then she went carnivore, and her blood glucose levels are even higher. And I'm like, well, no shit, because there is nothing more insulinogenic than being on a keto or carnivore diet, because you're not going to stick to that, number one. If you do stick to that and you pick high fat foods, that's not going to, you end up overeating, because high fat foods have more calories in them. And what was the net result? She said, well, actually that's true, because that's what's happening. And I'm like, duh, ridiculous. This is what I wanted to then go to, because a lot of women over 40, that is a metric of success, the scale. That's why we need to learn to have different measures of progress. What does actually equate to progress? And that isn't seen in the physical metrics. It's seen in the gym. Progress is seen in the actions that you do that create the results that you want, not in the mere fact of measuring the results. Number 2, you said muscle is pure gold. Legs are the most metabolic thing that you can have, because they're the biggest tissues on your body. They are the biggest tissues on your body. And that's why they will always feel bulky, because muscle isn't just muscle. Muscle includes the stored form of carbs, glycogen, and
Mm-hmm.
water.
Yeah.
And that also weighs something, and that weighs a lot more. And that's why I say a kilo of lean muscle tissue in a human body weighs much more than a kilo of fat, because that lean muscle tissue comes with glycogen and comes with water. So the lean muscle tissue, that's a kilo. I don't know whether you saw this reel where I picked out the lean mince. And I'm like, this is lean mince. This is your lean muscle tissue. Add in, and then I had a stack of bread loaf, like a stack of breads, bread, and then I brought in a water bottle. That is what a muscle is in your body. A kilo of muscle tissue plus these two things. Here's a kilo of fat. The kilo of fat plus the kilo, whatever this is, this weighs more.
Yeah.
This got more space. But like that. And I want to talk about where women go wrong in this approach now, because you've been taught how to measure things for fat loss. And this goes back to what I started the conversation with. So now I want to relate it to this. You've been taught how to play these chords for a deficit, how to get all the tunes right. So you know how to measure success based off how good it sounds and how much it sounds like the original.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that context, it sounds like your strings are broken or they're out of tune. When you then try to build a physique, you've never been taught how to do that. You've just been taught how to follow apps that change their programs every 4 weeks to keep you interested.
Mm-hmm.
You've been taught how to eat to make yourself feel good, which happens when you feel like you're lean or you're smaller or you're eating in a deficit or you're doing everything calculated. Yeah,
people are not taught to eat to perform, eat to fuel, eat to feel good in the gym. They're taught to eat for a diet and to be the smallest version of themselves, right? So trying to change that narrative, super important. Like trying to teach people that carbs are so important for life in general, but I mean, especially for training performance. And to have that will change everything, because you are going to lift heavier, you are going to move better. I mean, sleep better, which all equals success, right? Success is not that number on the scale. That little tiny object that lives on your bathroom floor should not measure your success. It should be, you're right, inside the gym, how strong you're getting. By showing up to the gym, first of all, is success, right? Builds that confidence. You're showing up when you don't want to. You're pushing yourself when you don't want to. You're going for the extra rep. And by eating more food, you're able to just perform better, which will grow more muscle tissue. Just it's all around just a win-win. But it's kind of convincing everyone that is the answer. And it's not chasing your smallest self and eating as little as possible. It's eating as much as you can to do all those things, which will get you the best physique you can get. If you keep doing that and keep showing up, even though the number on the scale might not reflect what you're used to it reflecting, like in a deficit. Right? So that it might be staying the same. It might even be trending a little bit upward, because muscle, again, is not weightless. So
I think that's something that we need to talk on, because there comes a lot of patients with this, like you mentioned, and it all circles around the fear of seeing a higher calorie number than the 1600 that you're used to. As soon as someone sees 1800 or 2000 calories, they freak the fuck out. Mm-hmm. We need to talk about that, because obviously what you've been trying hasn't led to the happiness that you want. And I think me saying that isn't going to make you think, okay, well, I need to try something different by eating more. It's, well, why would I want to eat more if eating what I am right now isn't getting me the results I want? I don't want to get fatter. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to lose progress. What would you say to that?
I would say, let's focus on your macronutrients. Let's take a look at your diet and see what it's made up of in these 1600 calories, because that's probably where people are going wrong, just to use this fake person that we're talking about. So let me see your food log and let's see what's in there. So I would say, even if they didn't want to eat more off the jump, like, okay, let's focus on the macros. Let's try to hit this much protein, this many carbs, this much fat. Let's just tweak your sources. I guarantee they'd probably see results. And then when they start trusting the process there and start seeing, oh yeah, I feel better, first of all, because I'm not eating just a low carb diet of 1600 calories. Like, now I've got some carbs, I've got the right amount of protein. Yeah. And so so maybe you start there, okay, we'll keep your calories, but let's tweak the macros and let's focus on, your sources. Get some fiber, get some nutrient dense stuff flowing through. Let's get the body running efficiently. And then we can slowly, okay, let's add 100 calories and see what happens. And like, that's probably how I would approach something like that. Cause I understand the fear. What do you mean I should eat more? I still want to like lose body fat. Like, I get it. They look at you like you're absolutely insane. Like, no, I thought you would have me eat less, if anything. So, but I mean, I'm sure you see it all the time. Like, you can just tweak somebody's like macros around and their body changes, even though they're eating kind of the same amount of calories, So that's.
And most of the time it's because that's what I was going to say. Most of the time it's because what you were eating wasn't even accurate before. And now that you actually have someone that kind of meets, someone that's given you a structure to follow, you're believing in it, number one. But number two, changing around your food sources, having you eat more carbs, having you actually, most people don't track things accurately.
No.
Now they can be a lot more accurate on it. Like if you give them even, because I had a client, I'm going to give 2 different client examples, and then I'm going to see if you have any examples that you could write with the different situations. One of them, she had some stupid broad coach. I'm just like, far out. No wonder your body isn't changing. As soon as I got her first videos, I'm like, I thought you had a coach. Like, I thought you had a coach. That I did. So we're starting with everything, with fixing everything in her training, and she's already improved within a month.
Yeah.
You think people had coaches before? It's like, what?
Yeah.
And when you look at the meal plan, guess what? She had 3 different days of eating, all different, like calorie cycling. And it was all like, there was a 1,400 calorie day on her rest day. But then because she was doing cardio and training most days, everything else was like, it wasn't even high friggin' calories. I was going to say high fat. It was everything under 1,800 calories. Her carbs were low. And she's like 6 foot something. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you're tall, you are active, you're on your feet literally all day in your job. And that's what you were eating. And that's how you were training. So then when I actually gave her more food, she's like, I'm so full, I can hardly eat. But it's like, as soon as you give more quality food, all of a sudden she's full on the same amount of calories that she was eating before, and she can't even increase it. And that's when you'll actually change it. But then the other example is, and she's actually performing so much better. She's so much stronger already. That's the thing. If you want to get strong, which you need to do to be able to see body composition changes, you need to eat your freaking carbs and you need to eat more food.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I had a lady come to me who wasn't really eating real meals. She was kind of like grazing through the day, but then she'll find herself really hungry in the afternoon and then eat. Overall, the calorie total was really low because she's in like her older ages, and you know how you just eat like small portions. So it was small portions of low calorie-ish food. Although there were some meals, maybe once or twice a week, that were higher calorie meals. But anyway, what we did is we ate a 600 calorie breakfast, a huger lunch, and like, let's get up to 1900. Is like around 60. And yes, around 60, we said this before I pressed record, just because you're over 50 or over 40 doesn't mean carbs don't work for you. She's on a high carb diet. I got her close to 2,000 calories. And she's like, what the hell's going on? I'm actually hungry for the first time. She has energy now. She came to me saying that she had to reduce her training with her trainer before me from 4 days to 3 days, and then from 3 days to 2 days because she wasn't recovering. She had no energy through the day.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Yeah.
She just asked me for a 4th day.
Nice. I know. Food is everything. I mean, for real. Like,
do you have any examples?
I mean, I'm sure. I can't think of anything offhand, but I mean, just the diet, the food logs that I look at in the beginning is like, I don't understand how these people survive on like, I mean, I've seen like, Pizza Hut for breakfast and like, Taco Bell for lunch. And I'm just like, no, less than 100 grams of protein. Like, I'm talking 100 would be like, wow, yeah, this is awesome. But like, under 60 grams of protein a day, just like the stuff I see, I am just like, what the actual fuck? But, just like I said, so tweaking some of the things are, okay, let's just start and like, let's just focus on protein breakfast, and obviously carbs too, but let's focus on getting at least 30 grams of protein to start your day, and have a good breakfast, front load your day. And people, that makes such a huge difference in people's days when they're like, oh my God, I felt so much better, and that kind of starts it. So I always like to usually start with breakfast. Like, let's start there. and let's get a good 30 grams, no less, you know? So I always say, like, let's go with 3 questions. Like, the first question is always like, what is my protein? Second question, what is my plant or my fruits? And then the third question, like, what else do I want to have? So I give them examples. I'm like, okay, what's your protein? Yogurt. Cool. What's your plant or your fruit? Blueberries. What else do you want to have? Anything. Peanut butter toast. Cool. There's a meal. And I kind of teach them like how to build each meal that way. And then we look at their overall calories and like, okay, this can work. And let's try this for a few days, you know, and see how that goes. So that's kind of like how I always use those 3 questions. And I think it just helps people like, oh, okay. So
wait, you're not giving them a scorecard for an actual song. You're actually teaching them how to play guitar. Wow.
Yes, yes.
What the hell? Like, it's putting together simple meals. You don't need more recipes. You need more repetition.
Right.
You need to eat the same shit for quite a while to be able to gain an understanding of it. Once you realize how good it feels to feel good, then you can actually. This is where a lot of people have gone so soft. But if you can quote unquote earn your flexibility, you'll find that things become that much easier for you, because once you have that structure, once you have that routine in, it's like, okay, now I can learn how to swap some sauces in now. Now I can learn how to apply this to other meals, versus bombarding yourself with all these options, because you always need to have an orgasm out of your meal kind of thing.
Exactly. Like keeping it simple. Like I'm like, every meal doesn't have to be gourmet, you know, like just keep it simple. Let's build some templates, and you can chop and change the protein source. You can chop and change the fruit or the veg, you know, and like whatever it is, like just keep it simple, especially in the beginning. And that really helps, because people just think it has to be so complicated, and tracking has to be so, and meal prepping has to be all the Tupperwares laid out. And like, it just can be so simple. And that's where I don't know how that gets missed. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard. You know, it really doesn't. So yeah, keeping it simple is key. But I usually always start with like, let's start with 1 meal, and like, let's just get really good at building 1 meal. Because some people get really overwhelmed with tracking all their food. You know, I mean, for us, it's like second nature, right? But like somebody who's never tracked, it's like, oh my God, that's a lot, right? So let's just get really good at 1 meal.
But you said that with that quote, it is a lot to track every meal. Like, it overwhelms you. And that is why deficits will always fail you if you try to start everything trying to hit a calorie deficit that you're told, because you haven't even built habits yet. You don't even know where you're at. And I find that when people try to start calculating what they're doing while trying to eat in some stupid, ridiculous deficit that some stupid, ridiculous calculator online gave you, or some trainer online gave you, how are you going to do that? Because you're not going to track in all the things that you usually eat, number one. So you think it's not working, or you try to track, or you don't track things that don't equal, like that aren't quote unquote good. So if they're not good, and if they don't align with what you're supposed to do, you forget about them because you didn't log them. And it's like, well, how's this going to work? You're not tracking all of your food because you feel guilty for it, and you don't even have the systems in place, and then you give up on it. I had someone say to me, I don't even know the point. She came to me saying, I don't even know the point of me tracking anymore, because nothing works anyway, and I'm not getting results. I'm like, okay, let's fix this. And what she was doing, like you said, which is what I want to harp on more about, the importance of tackling that first meal. She used to relax. She's a busy type A workaholic type of person. She's absolutely amazing at like wanting to be the mum for her kids. So she's either working or she's being the mum for her kids. She hardly leaves any time for herself. So then at night, what do you think happens? And I'm like, okay, well, you're not hungry in the morning. Let's just start your day with some protein and make sure there's some plants in there. And she was hesitant to it, but the first thing that she checked in with me with is, I actually started eating something in the morning. I'm like, wow, I did not expect her to just jump straight into it, but she did. And she's like, and I'm not even eating after dinner anymore. I don't even want to. I'm like, wow. That is what you call leaning in. People don't understand just how much that can change things. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not really hungry in the morning. I'm always hungry at night. And you think that that is an actual thing that's going to stay forever. Or that's because you're under fueling in the day. That's because you're not putting enough protein in the day. That's because when you do eat something in the day, it's not the right things.
Exactly. I was just using this example today. I'm like, like people going on like little weekend trips. I'm like, okay, so when you're in New York City and you go grab a bagel, let's say you grab an awesome bagel in, New York City, and you're going to eat it, you're going to burn right through that, right? You go out walking New York City, that bagel's gone. That's going to be your body's preferred energy, carb, right out the door. You're going to be hungry in an hour. But you get the bagel with some eggs or a protein shake, that's going to last you a lot longer. So just kind of teaching people like how to always have protein as the star, alongside. Have your donut if you want your donut, okay? But pair it with a protein shake or a Greek yogurt or something like that's going to stick, Just actually having this conversation today. So it's just, yes, teaching people to front load the day will make all the difference, and they will not, because everybody likes to say that I'm so hungry at night, but then you look at their food log and it's like they had, a granola bar for breakfast, and a microwave lunch with a Cliff Bar for a snack, or, like just random stuff. Like, and it's just, this is the problem. So it's like teaching the balanced meals. And again, like I said, let's get really good at one meal, and then we'll move on to lunch, and then we'll move on to dinner, and kind of like just teaching how to build the foundation of a meal. So, yeah.
I think that part's important because I don't know about you, but I find that a lot of women don't like feeling full. So then they graze through the day, or if they don't feel like they're hungry enough for a full meal, it's like, I'll just have something small. But then that something small becomes another thing that's small and another thing that's small. And before you know it, you're stuck in the same pattern again. I don't know whether you've experienced that part, but I do want to bring this in back to the training, because I do feel like a lot of women just focus so much on this nutrition side of things, where it's just like, you just need to trust yourself to realize that if you fuel your training and make your training work, it's like, it's not just about eating more. It's about what eating more allows you to do. It's meant to allow you to have more energy through the day. It's meant to allow you to train harder, to perform better, to get stronger. And all of those 4 things lead to the body composition changes that you want. The reason that it never worked before is because you just ate more, or you always tried to eat in a deficit but couldn't stick to it. So you were eating more without intentionally wanting to eat more. So you were in this flip-floppy state where you never intentionally end up doing anything, just half in a diet. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think this is where the patience thing comes in. But also, because we spoke on this on the last podcast, and I really, really, really need to drive this home in a different context now, trying to do 2 things at once. Yes, you can have some sort of spork, or the thing that's a fork with a spoon, but you get the best of no welts. Like, you still wouldn't use that to pick up friggin' spaghetti because it'll slip all the way through. Right. Like, it just doesn't work. You won't use a spoon to try to pick up spaghetti. And it's like, if you have this level of impatience enough as it is, if you're going to spend forever trying to build muscle in a deficit, you're going to see nothing, because you're not in a deep enough deficit to get the fat loss results that you want. You're able to cut your calories significantly. Your body composition changes off the bat. You can see your changes because you've done this process, and you're not in your first year. You've been doing years, like over 10 years of lifting shit and doing shit. Yeah. And that's where physiques are built. 10 years of doing shit. And in that 10 years, she spent most of the time building muscle to look lean. And the same with me. That's the only reason why I look lean, because I spent 3 years not being lean, complaining about, well, 1 year I was complaining. Then I finally accepted the process. That's why I was so successful with the fat loss phase that I did do, which is why I never have to do one again, because I did it right from the get-go. It's like, I don't have to do fat loss again unless I really want to. And I don't. I want to build more muscle because I've been maintaining my body composition since. And that's the beauty of doing it right.
Because muscle is metabolic gold.
Being strong as fuck is metabolic platinum. Muscle is metabolic gold, because it's the being stronger and the muscle together. You do end up burning calories in your strength training sessions because you're lifting more weight. You're lifting more load. That's not the goal of it. The goal is to get stronger, and that's why you're burning more. But I just think it's so important, because when you actually do it right that way, you're able to stick to a deficit. You're able to go into it deep enough and say no to things, to make the compensations, to make the trade-offs, to make the quote-unquote sacrifices. You can't do that if your whole life has been a history of trying to diet, struggling, flipping around and thinking there's no point because why bother? I'm tracking my food, but I don't believe in it. So I'm kind of half-assing it. I don't really realize that I'm nibbling, but if I am, who the fuck cares? Because it's not going to work anyway.
Yes.
How about actually trusting yourself for once?
Yeah.
I feel for you guys, and Kelly does as well, because we try so hard to help you and handhold you out of this, because we see it, and it's so hard when you're experiencing these things. It's like,
you got to get out of your own way at some point, right? I mean, and just understand that. Think about it, like what you were doing has not been working, so why not try something new? I remember when I got my first coach, God, it was 10 years ago, and he wanted me to eat, I think it was like 1,700 calories, and I was used to living like, that life of like less, train twice a day, eating 1,500 calories. And he was like, oh, 1,700. And I'm just like, what? Like, I couldn't imagine. And then I remember just listening to some advice, and my wife was like, why don't you try something you haven't done? And I was like, and she was like, just trust it. You hired him. I was like, you're absolutely right. And I did. And it was the best thing I ever did. But I get it. That belief it's hard when you just are so used to believing a certain thing works. And maybe it did work for you at one point, so yeah, getting out of your own way, and just diving in. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There, because I know that this was for me, so I want you to explain it for you. When you said trusting it, and then you said it did work, and because I already said because it worked before, that's why people lean onto it. It's like, no, but I know this works because it's worked before. But then you're seeing that this process works for so many other people. Was it more so the fact that I know that works, but that's for them, not for me? I know what works for me. My body doesn't do that. I don't trust my body to respond that way.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, no way. Yeah. Anytime I overeat, the scale goes up, of course it does. Like,
this one. Can we talk on that point? Because that is exactly what I'm seeing everyone say. And I know that you say it as well. As soon as we allow ourselves to eat more, or to break away from control, to let go of control, get more proof that it's not going to work, because we're focused on the wrong fucking metric.
So yeah. Okay, so you go out for sushi one night and you step on the scale the next day and it's up because you had a lot of soy sauce and all the things. And of course, but that's not body fat, and that's what you have to like remember. But people only see that number. Like, I know I shouldn't be eating out. I shouldn't be eating sushi. I shouldn't. That's bad because the scale's up. And it's like, it's not body fat. It's just a little more food in your belly and a little more sodium in your belly, and that's the hard part. And so, yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
we're focused on the wrong things.
Focusing on the wrong things. Yes, exactly. The number, like not focusing in, hey, actually, I'm going to use that sushi that I ate last night and lift some really heavy shit, and that should be where the focus is. But
exactly, because that's what builds a physique.
Yes.
We need to start thinking in terms of building a body composition and training for the physique, because the more that we focus on things that aren't that, the more that we pull ourselves away from it and possibly be losing muscle, because you're losing muscle after 30 if you aren't proactive about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's really hard to get yourself to that place of acceptance before it's too late. Oh my God, I hit menopause. That's why I believe all of these charlatans online telling me that it's my cortisol, it's my this, it's my that. Yeah. And that's why we understand it, because we know that most of you haven't actually given yourself a chance to thrive in this period. But at the same time, us trying to show you that and tell you that isn't as sexy, because it's not promising this one fix. But they aren't promising you one fix either. They're the ones that are causing the problems.
I know.
I do want to circle back to what you mentioned with the training daily, because I know that we spoke about this one. But many women, because they want to change their legs so much and tone up their legs so much and lean out their legs so much, and that's the problem area, they're training like 6 times a day and 7 times a day, and then sometimes 5 times a day, legs 3 of those times. I would argue that if you're training legs 3 times, I should say 3 times a week, 3 times a week, not a day. But if you're training legs 3 times a week, it's like, are you training them hard enough? Because that's like, my training is so low volume that I could possibly train my legs 3 times a week. But I don't, well, to be honest, I train my legs, I think it's 4 times a week. No, 3 times. No, I have leg training 4 times a week because I do full body. That's the thing. Like, I do full body. But it's like, if you're doing body part splits, if I was just doing upper, lower, number one, I can't do upper, lower because I can't go through a whole lower body session without wanting to tank out halfway through, because I want to give my best every single set. for every single exercise. So by the time I get to exercise 4, I'm done. So I prefer to do full body splits because then I can give my max to that exercise. I recover better that way and I give better that way. 5, 6, that's 7 leg exercises over a whole week.
Over a week, yeah.
Women think that the more the better. The more means that they're going to build more muscle, they're going to lean it up more. And then on top of that, they're not even eating enough to fuel it. They're not eating enough to fuel the gains. They're not eating enough to fuel the recovery. And if you're not recovering, that's why you're inflamed. That's why you're puffy.
You got all the buzzwords there. Comment cortisol for my free guide.
Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous lately.
I know, it's so bad. Yeah, I mean, again, just getting people to understand that more is not better. Better is actually better, but that's a hard one. People, again, just like the carbs, and like it's just a hard cycle to break. Like it's more jumping and plyometrics and low volume and 100 split squats and a finisher with, jumping jacks and walking lunges and all these things, when you could save yourself so much time and energy if you, ate a little bit more and just lifted a little bit heavier. Really, at the end of the day, I think that's just what it comes down to. But, that's...
If you can deadlift and front squat the same weight, then you're not training. Like I thought
you were going to say on the same day. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I have deadlifts and then high bar squats, but also at the same time, it's like, what's the purpose of what you're doing? Deadlifts and squats are mostly a strength move that I'm not meant to be taking to the max. Yeah. So there is that element, but on all of my other leg exercises, so I have my deadlifts and I have my squats. I take them to RPE 8, RPE 9. Like I'm not trying to max out every session because strength is built over weeks, over months. With strength, when you're training for strength, you're not meant to be training to failure because that takes away from strength. But when you're training for hypertrophy, take your sets to failure. I don't believe in taking leg exercises or any exercises a couple of reps shy of failure, because most people don't know what a couple of reps shy of failure is. And if you're trying to lead 2 reps shy of failure, you're probably 10 reps shy of failure. You probably have the same. People send us videos saying, I had about 1 left in here. I'm like, bro, there's a good 5 left in there. Right. That last rep didn't even slow down whatsoever. Yeah. You need to take yourself to failure. Like literally fail the last rep so you know what failure feels like. You finally learned how to tap into those muscle fibers. Now you're adapting to a whole new system. And
I mean, that comes with practice. It is scary to take things to failure, but like trying some safe things first, even trying like bicep curls, like something easy that, you're not in a machine that you're going to fail, and like something easy that you can like just kind of get a feel like, holy shit, yes, just because it's burning, that doesn't mean it's muscle failure. When it's burning, it's sort of like you're just kind of getting started. So just kind of trying that first and then working it to, something like maybe a leg extension, a machine, like something.
Leg extension, I reckon, is one that you need to keep in your program for at least, I reckon most women should keep the leg extension and some machines in their program for at least 24 weeks in a row, because with a wide rep range, because leg extensions are one that burn. And if you can challenge yourself every single week over 24 weeks to increase the reps by 1 or 2, I bet you from the first week to the 24th week, you can do so much more. I was on the bench press and some guy came up to me and he's like, "You're so freaking strong. Do you compete?" And I'm like, "No, I usually get asked if I compete in bodybuilding." And my answer to both is no, because number one, I like getting strong as fuck because it's exciting and it's something that I can measure and it's something I can chase tangibly. Yeah. But I can't tangibly chase my physique ever. And I will never see my physique change because we are the hardest on ourselves. And we don't actually see it change on a week-to-week basis. So that will completely, like, I would have no drive right now after 10 years of lifting. So I think that part is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. Like, unless you're dieting and going after a certain specific goal, we're doing this photo shoot. So, it's very specific and it's a very hardcore diet and not super fun. The trade-offs are real, but again, I've been doing this for a long time, so I know what to expect. But as far as like chasing strength, that's fun. I agree. That's a goal. That's something keeps it exciting to get to the gym. You can, look at your logbook and be like, fuck yeah, I lifted 10 more pounds than I did, 12 weeks ago. And like, you can just kind of like try to beat yourself every week. And that's motivating. And that's really, really fun. I am with you 1,000% on that. But aesthetics are also fun in their own way. Dieting can be fun, but it's a small period, and that's it. It's a small little blip on the radar. And I cannot wait to already get back to building. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
It's so funny because this is a side tangent and that's the other one fun. So I don't want to forget it this time because I just remembered what I wanted to say. Sorry, I literally just took my ADHD tablet then. But that aside, I actually, all right, sorry, on a relatability tangent, I promise I'll get back to it, but on a relatability tangent, it is okay for you guys to have these human struggles, and that's why I try to share them as well. And recently, I've been having so much struggle with my ADHD because my medicine isn't working anymore. I have to wait 3 weeks until I get my psychiatrist. And it is absolutely nonsense. But I'm telling this to you because so many of you think that you have to have all of your shit together all in a row, all of the freaking time, and that everyone has their shit together all of the freaking time. And the only reason that I'm still showing up to these things, to my podcast, to my training, to my nutrition as best as I can, is because I've already formed a routine and a habit out of this stuff. Yes. You don't just bear it out of fresh air. Yes. And I empathize with so many women that are trying to do all of this all at once, trying to juggle all of the things because of this impatience where you can't just focus on the one thing. Because my ADHD has me struggling in so many other areas. If I was trying to juggle my business now, as it is now, with trying to develop the habit of training and showing up at the same time, like this is why I said earn your flexibility. I gave myself zero flexibility for the first year of doing anything. It's like, no, it's this or nothing. Yeah. Everything has to be structured. And then because I finally developed a rhythm, I trust myself now. I've allowed myself to build that trust because I never had self-trust. Once you can do that, which it's hard to do if you don't reflect on your past successes, and oh my God, I actually have proof that I did this, then there's nothing for you to lean back on.
You've got the foundation built. Yeah. I mean, you've got the foundation.
And same with you, like you just show up anyway. And I went through a phase, which I'm never going to do again, where I started pushing my training out to really late in the afternoon, in the evening. And the only, like I was the person that said, I'm someone that would never train after 12 o'clock. Never, ever, ever. But I still did it. And after finishing client check-ins at 7 p.m., I would still go to the gym to do what I needed to do. Like old Ruby would have never done that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because I built that. And I know that you can speak on that as well, but I'm going to bring in the other thing I want to say because I think that you can probably tie it together with the whole, this is part of building the skill. But a lot of women feel like that is too much. That's not for me. I'm not built for this. I don't want to train to failure. That's too heavy. That's too much. Well, no shit. Because your program is full of junk volume. If I had to do 10 leg exercises, training to failure with 4 sets and drop sets and all of this bullshit.
Yeah. Partials, quarter reps.
No wonder the idea, this is where training hard doesn't mean that it's effective. This is where training heavy doesn't mean that it's effective because it might feel heavy and hard, but take it.
You gotta build the foundation basically, no matter what, in nutrition, in training, in your schedule, all of it. Like you have to prioritize what's important, and starting small is okay. I think a lot of people too just want to start with everything all at once. Like I gotta track out all my food. Hey, let's just start with breakfast. Because what you were doing before, that we're gonna improve that no matter what.
But I want results now, Kelly.
Patience. We have to have some patience. Remember, we are learning this for life. This is to be sustainable, and we're working on fat loss and building muscle, not just weight loss and more. We're going to focus on better.
But aren't I paying for results?
Yes, if you're patient, you will get them. Trust, put both feet in.
No, I actually thought that what you just said is so important. A lot of the time, we have this set time frame in mind that we're going to pay a coach for. So we want to do it all now. Like even if we were saying, even if we lean in, know that we want to end it after 6 months or after 4 months or after 12 weeks or whatever is in your mind. I'm just going to do this for a year, give it a go. But if that is your mindset from the get-go, that isn't setting you up for success. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to see results until year 3, because you don't just wake up on day 3 times 365. Sorry, I'm not that great at maths. That's probably like 900, 1,000, something like that, and all of a sudden be ripped. Like, no, you're becoming in the process, but this time you've become in the process, aka you're going to continue on as.
Yeah, enjoying the process. I think that can always just be, the process is where everything's at. It's not about the end result. It's about who you become in the entire process, what you learn about yourself, how you become better. And that's where the magic is in the process, not in the end result. The end result and the fat loss and the muscle building will be a byproduct if you kind of lean into the process and go all in, right? So that's what I gotta say.
I think a great thing to like tie this up with is I wrote the word fun, and I just remembered that was related to your calorie deficit. And it's like, it can be fun. And I'm like, well, it's never going to be fun if all you know is sacrifice, if all you know is struggle, if all you know is trying to chase two different things and never really seeing results for it, but you're putting in all of this effort. So you feel like you should see way more results by now. Like, that doesn't make it fun. When you go into a calorie deficit, like we mentioned, and I want you to kind of talk about before the calorie deficit. That's why I want to go into this. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great place to end this. But before we bring up the elements of fun, you need to be able to go deep enough into it. Like, are you willing to eat 400, 500 calories less than you are now? Are you willing to track your food meticulously? Because you don't want to be in and out of a diet for the whole year because you can't stick to it. Because if you're in a diet for a whole year, you're not actually in a diet. Frankly, like, you can get it over and done with if you do it right.
Yes.
Are you willing to get really hungry? Are you willing to push through the hardest of hard days and still show up and give your best efforts and show up to whatever cardio or training that you have to do? If you're not willing to do any of that, then you're not in a place for a deficit. And if you're actually thinking right now, I can't wait to diet, and you've never not had that thought, you're definitely not in a place to diet because you've never lent in to intentionally focusing on the things that matter. Focus on what matters and everything else will happen for you. Now, to end this, I want to go into where we were before the diet, because that's what matters. That's where you spend most of your time. Mm-hmm. Where you were thriving, you had the energy, you were loving your food. You're like, oh my God, I actually get to eat this. You're enjoying life with your wife. You're enjoying life on the beach. You're mixing both at once. And the reason why I want you to talk about this is because when a lot of people start this journey, they feel like it's either or. It's all or nothing. They can never enjoy themselves again. Well, you'll never enjoy yourselves again if you don't actually do the shit that makes dieting successful and where you should be 90% of the time outside of a diet. So tell me what life was like then, what your training was like then, your attitude, your mood, all the good shit.
I mean, my training is always, FYI, kind of the same. I'm always training hypertrophy, but I was definitely obviously more flexible with food. Right now, I'm very strict, very meticulous, not going over a gram here or there. It's very, very dialed in. So in maintenance is where I spent most of my years, is training hard, like eating a kick-ass, huge pre-workout meal, full of carbs, training my ass off, coming home, having a huge post-workout meal, having more flexibility, able to go out to dinner if I want. And I'm not a big eater-outer anyways, but I mean, that's an option if we want. Like now, that's just not really an option. I mean, of course it is, but I choose not to. So it's just having that flexibility and living just life, like it's life, really. And then coming into this period is very different because it's just a more strict version of my life. And I'm okay with that trade-off because I have a goal in mind and I know there's an end date. So it's a very short period where I am committed. And it is also fun because I have the structure, I have my meals, I have everything kind of lined up. There's no question about what I'm eating today or tomorrow or for breakfast next week. It is planned out. Everything is to the T. My training is similar. And am I as strong? I feel good because I use a lot of my daily carbs for my pre-workout meal because I still want to train hard. So, and I train early in the morning, unfortunately. So that eats up a nice chunk of my carbs, but I'm okay with that because again, that's the trade-off I'm making. So.
Yeah, I think this is what I actually wanted to talk to you about just then, because you just said you train hard. And as someone who is experienced, what she experiences is going to be different to you guys. You're going to experience this to a whole other level. But you feel the difference in how you show up to your training, in your energy, in your mood state, when you're in a diet and when you're not in a diet. because you're doing a diet effectively, like it's a distinct difference, whereas most people like in and out. But because you're doing this, you realize the difference in your training. I think I tagged you in my carb reel because I wanted you to read into that one as well. But it changes everything. So that's what I want to tie this up with on that note.
Yes, the carbs absolutely like would not go into my training session without using a nice chunk of those carbs. So it's so important, like even in a diet, right? So some people are luckier because they train later in the day, so they can like use their lunch or their, one of their meals as like kind of their pre-workout meal. But for me, I like early in the morning, and to me, I'm not changing that. So yes, I use a nice chunk of my carbs at 6 a.m. and it's going to set me up for my session. But yes, then by 8 a.m., I've already used a lot of my carbs, so I have a long day ahead of me. But you know what? That's just, again, comes with, I know what works for me and what doesn't. So I would rather train hard because that's going to get me the result I want. You know what I mean? So it's worth it to me. So yes, carbs before training, no matter what phase I'm in, super important.
I'm going to sum that part up. You want to add anything to it to put a little bow on it, but this isn't just what works best for her body. This is what works best for physiques. Because if you can't train hard, if you can't put in the effort to truly progress over time, you're not going to build the physique. And if you want to look tight, toned, lean, defined, whatever it is, that all comes from muscle. And it all comes from building the foundations, from creating routines, from creating systems. And none of that happens if you're not patient in the process. And if you want to maximize everything out of your coach out the gate, or you start with a timeline in mind, you need to be patient with yourself. The good coaches are patient as hell with you, and they want you to succeed long term. Yeah. We don't do this for a before and after photo. We do this for a before, during, and always. And we want you to always be successful and continue seeing progress. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with? Leave them with your handle for sure, but is there anything else that you want them to take away from this that they can start to apply now? We have, make sure you start your day with 30 grams of protein, add some plants. What else do you want to have with it? That's a nice starchy carb. Anything else that you want to leave them with?
Yeah. Build the foundation first, you cannot build the house without the foundation. So you have to start there. And if it seems like it's not enough, it's probably enough. Start slow, build the foundation, go up from there. Yeah.
And if you can go up from there, I would say keep going. Yeah. And then go from there. Because sometimes we feel like we're ready before we're actually ready.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what's your Instagram handle? Where can people find you and all the good stuff?
Mack Fitness 305 MACK Mack Fitness 305 at Instagram and at Gmail too. And YouTube, same thing. All the places.
If you can flood your newsfeed with people who train like they want a body versus eating for the body or dieting for the body, you will get the body.
Yes.
Focus on people who train for the body versus diet for the body. And that's where you'll find the biggest results.
Yep. Love it.
Woo! Love you all. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you got anything out of this, I would love to hear from you. Message either of us, message Kelly. Let us know what you're going to implement. Let us know if you implemented any of it and what you gained from it. I'm going to put in the description below the last podcast I did with Kelly because it is phenomenal. We went through all of the mistakes listed out that people make. And I think that would do you guys really, really good because we had conversations on every single point. We gave the context. We used, I think you remember, we had 3 different avatars. Yeah. Those that are kind of like skinny fat, those that have a lot more fat to lose, and then it's kind of in between. So it's one to go and listen to. Yeah. I will leave the link below. Anything else, you know where to find us. And thank you so much for spending the last hour with us today. Bye.
Bye.